Welcome to the No Unfinished Business podcast. There are 1,000 different ways your clients can leave unfinished business, but no single advisor can address every issue. In every episode, we'll answer the important questions to help professional advisors focused on individual clients. Attorneys, CPAs, and financial advisors identify and eliminate those planning blind spots so you can speak competently and confidently to your clients and help them leave no unfinished business.
Elizabeth, thanks so much for joining me.
Of course, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So, Elizabeth, we're here to talk about how life insurance and other beneficiary designations can seemingly make things easy, but then end up screwing things up.
Yeah.
Where do we even start?
Well, we'll start with what I do. So I'm a life insurance specialist. So I spend my days working with financial professionals to help their clients find the solutions they need within the realm of insurance. So life insurance, annuities, long-term care, disability, all those fun things. The concept of beneficiaries is a great way to have conversations, whether it's onboarding new clients or ongoing relationships with existing clients, because beneficiary designations, as you said, could really screw things up if they don't go right. So the importance of reviewing these can really help every financial professional, from attorneys to financial advisors to insurance agents, to make sure that their clients are set up the way they need to be with their beneficiaries across a variety of accounts.
Yeah, and the reason people get so messed up with these, they think the will is still going to follow this, or they think that somehow the life insurance, the annuity, the 401k, the IRA, whatever it is, they forget that the will is only there for things without beneficiary designations. And occasionally, we regularly tell people, yes, we do want to set your beneficiary designation to point at the trustee named in certain trusts, but we don't want it going to the estate most of the times. We don't want it going to your minor children, because then we get to spend $25,000 to $30,000 on guardianship. It may seem like a good idea, but that's not really what we want. So.
Yep. The big red flags you said one of them, which is perfect. The whole, you don't want to see beneficiaries written as just to the estate. It's too generic. I mean, from the legal perspective, right?
Right, because if it goes to the estate, then it's available to pay any debts that may remain from the decedent. It doesn't mean that you're not going to pay those debts anyway as part of the estate administration process. But if you can avoid having it be part of that, it just, it potentially makes the negotiating position a lot better if there's not an extra million or whatever of life insurance sitting in the estate.
In the estate, yeah, versus going direct to a beneficiary. Another big red flag is a new marriage.
Oh.
There are some fun stories about beneficiaries going terribly wrong when it comes to new marriages. And if people have old insurance policies, there's a whole variety of different accounts that have beneficiaries designated to them, right? You've got 401ks, you have IRAs, you have even things like bank accounts and CDs, as well as annuities and life insurance, right? It's not just life insurance that this is important for, which is also where the opportunity lies in these conversations, is to uncover these essential needs that people may have and not know about. So yeah, new marriages and divorces are a very important piece of conversation when it comes to talking with your clients and their beneficiaries on their accounts.
Right, because there are state laws that will unwind bad beneficiary designations. They'll unwind bad trustee appointments and provisions in wills. It is better to be safe than sorry on things like this.
Yeah, absolutely. There's one story it was actually on somebody's employee benefit life insurance where they hadn't updated it, and it was a very small death benefit, $50,000, $100,000, but it was, the children were like 18 and like 16. A mother passed away, and the insurance money went straight to an ex-husband, and the clients were young. They came from not any money or any assets, and the daughter literally needed that to bury the mother and didn't have the funds to even bury the mother, and the father was far out of the picture, right, and not in any way going to communicate, at least not to where our communication ended with them. There was pretty much no sign that they were going to be able to do really much about it, because they didn't even have the assets to fight for it.
Oh, yeah, and it's bad enough when it's a big number. If it's a small number, it could be even more painful because they didn't have anything else.
Yep, yeah. Very detrimental to the family situation. And then the other big one is just making sure there's contingent beneficiaries on insurance policies or all these other accounts. If someone only has a primary person and that person were to pass away for whatever reason, you don't have a backup for when that person passes away. And that's when you end up in front of John trying to figure out what to do with the estate. So yeah, contingents can be extremely helpful in the long run on these types of accounts. Even recently, I have an uncle who has no children. He has my mother and my aunt as his beneficiaries, but he didn't have any contingent beneficiaries. So my mother was reaching out, what's your social security number? To be able to add me to his beneficiary. She's highly doubt that will pass away before he does, but there's no one as a backup. And then where does it go?
Right. And I mean, even the other thing to think about, every form is going to be different. It's not one beneficiary designation. Whether your mom is there or not, is there a default of it goes to her kids if she's not there? Some places you have to spell it out. Some places there's just a little checkbox to give it to the kids.
Yep.
And it's why every form is different. And we try and track along with that to have that ready for clients. But at the same time, if they change the form, we don't want them using the old form either.
Yep. And every carrier, every product is going to have some sort of different form associated with it. So knowing that and knowing the language behind it, like per stapes, we were talking about fun words. That's a fun word.
Right.
So just knowing what those different things mean when that transition to a beneficiary or a contingent beneficiary comes into play.
Right. Which is why keeping it easy, when you start putting people in there, knowing what the forms are going to say and how they're going to run, it's different for everybody, and trying not to play, what does Northwestern Mutual mean versus what does Fidelity mean versus Prudential? Like, what we typically look at is it's either going to the surviving spouse or it's going to the trustee named in some other document. So we can at least point it there. If they need to change things, if we're funding certain other gifts, it's there for that. And we're not worried about trying to figure out whatever their form means, or, worst of all, coming back after somebody dies and said, oh, well, the form said, we didn't realize the form said that.
Yeah, very true. So, I mean, that is the beauty too so I help a lot of people do beneficiary reviews. It's when I'm looking at these documents, at least on the insurance side, just like you with legal documents and things, it's second nature. It's easy to review, to know what exactly is going on with those policies and who the beneficiary is and what will happen if something bad happens. Another big thing that goes along with at least the insurance review of things is the making sure they have adequate coverage. A lot of times, maybe they don't need coverage to the amount that they do, or maybe they need more coverage. Maybe they have more children. A lot of people think like at the first kid, they get insurance, but they don't often subsequent children. And now they've got 4 and they're not paying attention to the fact that they haven't increased that coverage to the amount that they need. And then goals as well, because there could be advantageous beneficiary changes they could make to things like maybe there aren't children to pass it on to, or there aren't things that they want to individuals they want to give it to, and maybe they have philanthropic goals. So you can also make nonprofits and universities and things like that your beneficiaries on a variety of accounts.
Just thinking about what to have for kids, usually I'm telling people, look, if you're getting that term coverage for the unexpected death, every new kid you're getting a new policy probably for somewhere between 20 and 25 years.
Yep.
Just to get them through college and pay off the mortgage.
And probably to the tune of about $1 million per child, ideally.
And it's obviously different folks are going to look at it differently, but the idea of what you want to think about is that person's going to be gone. Are they breadwinner? And even if they're a stay-at-home parent, you're going to need somebody to stay at home, and that is going to cost money.
It's an expensive replacement for sure.
Right. So it's whatever income, or not only the income you're replacing, but
responsibilities and the roles and the tasks. Yep.
Yeah.
Because that breadwinner is going to need to keep being a breadwinner in the event of maybe a non-working spouse or something passing away.
Right.
So setting up the facility for the children to have the care that they need is very pricey, especially to that caliber. So that is another interesting conversation just on insurance for non-working spouses. Most carriers will only insure up to half of the amount of the working spouse. So if you have a working spouse with $2 million total in coverage, a non-working spouse is potentially only eligible for up to $1 million, depending on how much they need and what they have going on. That may be enough, but there are a few carriers, the beauty of brokerage and lots of options, there are a few carriers that will actually match that working spouse's coverage if that's essential for the individual.
What's enough to qualify generally speaking, for all of the hundreds of potential carriers, what are they looking for? Is a part-time job enough to qualify them as working, or is it full-time W-2 income? What should we even be thinking about if we're trying to goose up?
Qualify, for coverage. So the big thing is that they're looking for is how much do you make?
Mhm.
Even at the breadwinner, the working spouse, they're doing based on our age. They take your age and a multiple. It's not a perfect multiple. It's not, okay, you're 34 and you're going to retire at 65. So they're not 31 years of a multiple. They take brackets. So if you're 30 to 40, you can get up to 25 times your salary. So it's really just a matter of what is your take home at the end of the day and how much are you making, and that multiple you would qualify for at carriers. And those numbers are also not the same at every carrier. One carrier may say, oh, if you're over 55, you can only get 10 times your income, while another carrier might say 15 or 20 times. So it's a matter of knowing which direction to go with that coverage. But yeah, so to answer your question, it's ultimately how much are they making as a whole and a multiple of that to age 65 or so.
Got it. So I know this probably wasn't what you were saying, but the idea that we said 55 and 10, it's not just 65 minus whatever your age is.
Correct, right. They usually just have brackets. So, okay, if you're between this age and that age, it's 25 times. If you're between this age and that age, it's 30 times your income. So the concept is income replacement. And that's one of the easiest ways that they look at it, other than things like estate, if they have a large estate and how much estate taxes and things they may be incurring. But generally the easy way is multiples of your income.
We're talking probably more about that term coverage instead of permanent, very expensive coverage.
Right. Yeah. Well, permanent coverage brings its own levels of goals and reasons behind it. So that's a whole nother conversation.
Well, maybe for another day.
Yes.
Elizabeth, anything else to wrap up with?
I guess just to summarize, the best doing beneficiary reviews, again, it's great for new clients or just touch points on existing clients. You could do them up to once a year. That's pretty frequent. But if you are meeting with that client regularly, it might be a good thing just to check in. But the big 6 reasons you should be doing a beneficiary review: a birth, having a kid, a death, loss of a spouse or loss of a child or something else that's going on. Marriages and divorce, we talked about both of those. Inheritances, knowing where those funds and those assets are going to go, as well as job changes. So those 6 factors are great times. If you're not doing it annually, then when one of those bigger life events occur, having that conversation then.
Excellent. Elizabeth, where can our listeners find you if they're looking for help with their beneficiary?
On LinkedIn, absolutely. I'm easy to find there, as well as my email and, of course, my phone. Do you want me to share that, or can we share that in the comments or something?
It'll be in the notes.
Yes, you can reach me at all the places.
Perfect. Elizabeth, thanks so much for stopping
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. It's great here. I love your office.
Me too.
I appreciate it.